Shifting focus, in what can be called as historic polls in the UK, the Labour Party swept to power after winning the country's general election, crossing the 326-seat threshold for a working majority in the House of Commons. CNN News 18's managing editor Zaka Jacob explains in detail what worked for the Labour and what exactly went wrong for the Tories. Take a look at that explainer.
The Labour Party has won this general election, and I have called Sir Keir Starmer to congratulate him on his victory.
4.5 years of work changing the party. This is what it is for.
Britain's Labour Party won a landslide election victory, the biggest that it has seen in a generation. The landslide was so comprehensive, it swept the Conservative Party out of power after almost a decade and a half. It was an anti-incumbent revolt by ordinary British citizens who were sick and tired of a massive cost of living crisis as the Tories changed 5 prime ministers in 5 years. The Labour win is comparable all the way back to 1997 when Tony Blair led New Labour to a thumping win, ending decades of Conservative rule, first under Margaret Thatcher and later under John Major. Today heralds a new era in British politics. The outgoing Prime Minister Rishi Sunak conceded his party's defeat in the early morning hours. He said, and I quote, "The British people have delivered a sobering verdict tonight." Sunak was speaking to his voters from his constituency in the northern part of the country. He then said he had also called Keir Starmer, who is the leader of the Labour Party and the incoming Prime Minister, to congratulate him. He also apologized for the disastrous performance by the Conservative Party. He took personal responsibility for the defeat of his party.
I have heard your anger, your disappointment, and I take responsibility for this loss. To all the Conservative candidates and campaigners who worked tirelessly but without success, I am sorry that we could not deliver what your efforts deserved. It pains me to think how many good colleagues who contributed so much to their communities and our country will now no longer sit in the House of Commons. I thank them for their hard work and their service.
At the other end, there were scenes of jubilation at Keir Starmer's constituency. The soon-to-be Prime Minister appeared before a crowd of supporters, promising to rebuild his country. He also added that change begins now.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation.
Starmer began his speech with a big grin, but he turned more serious and somber as he talked about the need to face up to the challenge of rebuilding a broken economy and a broken public health infrastructure. Echoing the speech given by Tony Blair back in 1997 when New Labour won a landslide victory, Starmer said, and I quote, "We ran as a changed Labour Party and we will govern as a changed Labour Party." Labour had won more than 400 seats and the Conservatives just a little over 100. That would be the worst defeat for the Conservatives in the nearly 200-year history of the Conservative Party. While the Labour Party is walking away with a strong majority of seats in Parliament, the overall share of the vote that it captured was just a little over 35%. This signals a fractured electorate. It is the lowest share of vote won by any